Hi, I'm Marina Jones, and this is my report about the intercultural relationships assignment. So, for this assignment, I chose the movie My Big Fat Greek Wedding, which is a very fun movie to watch that I think applies perfectly for this assignment. So, the story is that this girl, her name is Tula Portokalos, and she is played by Nia Vardalos. So she plays this woman who was raised in a Greek family in Chicago, and it kind of fast forwards through her life story of living in this crazy, loud Greek family. And so now in the movie, she's 30. So she works in her family's restaurant called Dancing Zorba's, and she's kind of just like the host girl. She like fills coffee, she makes menus, that kind of thing. She has like low self-esteem. Her family, like the tradition in her family is to be married off very young, to have kids, not very young, but when she's younger than what she is. So to be married, have kids, have Greek babies, and like that's like her whole family's mission is to marry Tula off. But Tula, doesn't have the self-esteem, doesn't really want to stand up to her parents. She still lives at home, that kind of thing. So she starts the conversation with her father about going to the local college for some computer classes. So she goes to college, and her family kind of help her mom and her sister, her mom and her aunt help her convince her dad to let her go. So she goes to college, she starts, learning what she wants to learn about. She starts gaining confidence, proficiency in computers and that kind of thing. And then she works up the courage again, to her father, who is like she has to clear everything through her dad, as the family would say. So she works up the courage to ask her father to work for her aunt in her travel agency. So the aunt's travel agency is like computers and typing and all this stuff. So she goes to work for her aunt, and she sees this guy that she's seen before when she was not that confident. And she's like, oh, like, it'll never happen. But she sees him again. So he starts coming in and asking for her number and asking to go to dinner. And as, she learns about him, she learns that he is not Greek. So this would kind of be like an issue for her. She can't really date him publicly or introduce her family to him because he's not a Greek man, but she's in love. So they keep doing it. They keep dating, in secret. He drops her off 40 feet from her house and she walks to her house, that kind of thing where it's all secret. So in contrast, like her family's loud, super Greek. They eat all the time. They eat, what the mom makes, and his family is small and quaint and quiet, and he's a vegetarian. So obviously the cultures are very different and contrasting. So they're in love. Excuse me, I have my notes. And so eventually the family finds out, right? So the mom, someone saw her like kissing the guy in a parking lot somewhere because they had to sneak around. And so someone told her mom, told her cousin, told her aunt, and then they tell the father. So it's this big issue, and he comes to the house to meet everybody, and Tula's dad doesn't like him, and the guy's name is Ian Miller. Excuse me, I forgot to mention that. But the guy's name is Ian, and so Mr. Portokalos is kind of like hesitant, and he's like, you've been sneaking around with my daughter, but you won't even come ask me to date her. And he goes, well, can I date your daughter? And her dad goes, no. Okay, so the principles from chapter 8 that I think apply to this movie the most, I chose consensus style. That by definition means resolves issues by negotiation and mutual agreement. So I saw this as Ian and Mr. Portokalos, so the boyfriend and her dad, because as they started dating, and then he proposes to her. That's where the wedding comes in. So Ian proposes to Tula, and Mr. Portokalos is kind of hesitant, and it's like killing him that his daughter's dating this non-Greek man. But, they make it work, and they end up, having like a respectful relationship, where I would say they use consensus style to just kind of manipulate that into their favor. Another principle from chapter 8 that I chose was intrinsic religious orientation. So by definition, this is characterized by a strong commitment to one's faith. So as they're getting married, Tula's like, well, you're not Greek, you can't get married in a Greek church. So, or I'm sorry, Mr. Portocalis and Mrs. found this very important to them, that he, you know, gets married in the Greek church with Tula and not anywhere else, not in a hall. Like, Ian's parents wanted them to get married at the country club, but Ian kind of took that upon himself. So he got actually baptized into the church that they went to. So he, you know, went through the process of being dunked in the water, and they came to watch him get baptized. But he did that for Tula. So that was like him showing his love for her, because that was very important to her and her family. And another thing I chose was display rules from chapter 8. So this is the prescriptions for what kinds and amounts of emotional expression are appropriate. So Ian's parents came to meet Tula's parents one day for dinner, and they had to, you know, sit there, and Tula's parents invited their whole family to come. So it was like this big ordeal where the parents weren't expecting this many people, and they were loud, and they were taking shots, and they were drunk and like just loud. There was meat everywhere, and Ian couldn't eat the meat because he's vegetarian. But they kind of just put on the front of like, let's just be respectful and enjoy our time here while we meet them. And then I also chose history, past, present, future, dialectic. So this is the extent to which one feels compelled to change or alter its values, beliefs, or traditions if its overall goals change or it wants to adapt to the changing times. So I would say this would be Ian's parents at the wedding. So Ian's parents at the wedding, again, they weren't expecting this many people or for it to be such a big event for them. But because they are quiet and quaint, and like Ian's their only son, and Tula has a brother and 27 cousins. But they, you know, they changed, I wouldn't say changed their values, but more adapted to the beliefs of Tula's family, because they just wanted to enjoy that and be there with their son and support the couple, because they already had been through so much with Tula's family and the approval process, and now they're there and they're getting married. And I just think that, yeah, they used that principle to kind of put it in perspective, that she's a part of their family now. Great movie. Awesome example of a intercultural relationship.